Throw away 'cause I'm still the only one that knows. Background. My brother has been staying with us since lockdown, after his university closed. He couldn't stay with our parents 'cause they just sold the house and moved to a one-bedroom apartment, and our sister lives in a different part of the country. He was the oops baby, so I hope that explains the age gap. My wife and I have a 5-bedroom home, but currently don't have children yet. We decided to adopt 2 kids in our 40s, so we let him stay here. My brother has always been different. He's a bit of a loner and doesn't have a lot of friends outside of his online group. He's a shy, geeky kid, but he's otherwise all right, or so I thought, when you get to know him. So, here's what happened. The Wi-Fi doesn't quite reach my brother's room, so he usually does his schoolwork and other stuff in the dining room. A few nights ago, I was walking to the fridge after waking up in the middle of the night. Wife and I sleep early, and saw my brother working on something out, and as I got closer, I saw a very compromising picture of my wife, cleavage shot as she was gardening. He noticed me and quickly closed the window like he was watching porn. I was too shell-shocked to say anything at that time, and he just smiled awkwardly and ran to his room with the laptop. When I realized that something was up, I knew I had to find out. The next day, I asked my brother to pick up some groceries and some lunch for us, and while he was away, I went to his room, something I've never done since he moved, and well, it wasn't pretty. I saw a couple of my wife's bras and some of her panties, which I can only assume he used to pleasure himself. I took his laptop and decided to snoop. I knew his password 'cause I borrowed his Crunchyroll account to watch this anime my friend recommended. I don't usually watch anime. There I saw some of the most sickening entries I've read. There were pictures of my wife in a towel, her working out, her in compromising positions, etc., all taken without her consent by the looks of it. The F even logs every time he touches himself to the image of my wife. The creepiest part. He sometimes listens in on us when we have X. My wife can be a bit loud, but we didn't think it would be a problem since his bedroom was in a different part of the house, guest bedroom. I left the room feeling like I needed a shower. It was absolutely disgusting. Now I don't know what to do. I find myself fighting the urge to pummel him into next week every time I see him. I haven't told my wife yet 'cause I'm 100% sure she will feel violated and disgusted, so I want to find the best solution first before doing so. I so desperately want to kick him out, but he has nowhere else to go. Even if I do, what should I tell my parents? The truth? This will most likely break the family apart. I do plan on telling my wife soon, but if I do, I can almost guarantee she would want nothing to do with him, and would never want to visit the family if he's around. I'm so lost right now. Any advice will help. Still fighting the urge to beat my brother to a bloody pulp. Eat it if you're wondering, I did take pictures as proof. Small update. I told my wife. The Redditors who said I should tell her first before anything 'cause she was the victim were absolutely right. I'm giving her all the power to decide what to do about it. A lot has happened, but there are still things that need to be settled. Too long to add here and too incomplete to make a new update post. Hopefully, we'll have everything settled tomorrow or the day after. I'll write the update once everything is settled and I calmed down. No, I'm not going to beat up my brother, but I have thought about it. And to the people asking for the pics, you're disgusting. Hope the women in your life are proud of you. That's my wife. Please have some respect. Update. I told my wife the next day after posting, and needless to say, she did not take it well. She says she feels violated and unsafe in her own home. See, the thing is my wife and I have been together for almost 15 years, so we literally saw this kid grow up. We took him out to the movies, to the beach, etc. We sometimes even joked to my parents that he was our practice baby. My wife has a tendency to distrust people in general, as a lot of people in her life have let her down in the past. Imagine how hurt and betrayed she was when she found out someone she trusted and loved dearly betrayed her like that. Honestly, If I wasn't consoling my wife then, I probably would have gone through with the initial idea and beat the ever-living crap out of my brother. After she calmed down and went to sleep, I called my sister and talked about the situation. My sister and I are close, given that we're Irish twins. I feel like she needed to know, cause she has 2 teenage daughters herself, and who knows what my brother would do to them if given the chance. We talked, and she was clearly mad. Then we confronted my brother. At first he denied it, but when I showed him the evidence, he started ugly crying and begging us to forgive him. I gave him an ultimatum. Either he lets me in his phone laptop and delete everything, or I call the police. There was so much more shit on his computer than I initially thought. So many more stolen pictures of my wife that were definitely taken without consent. The F even recorded the audio of us having X'd. Who does that? So after hours of me looking for as much shit as possible, and pretty much clearing most of his hard drive, he eventually left without much of a fight. Oh, and we definitely threw out my wife's defiled underwear and are most likely going to have the room he stayed in cleaned professionally. I checked and thankfully he didn't have any hidden cameras anywhere. Oh, and if you're wondering how he got pictures of my wife in a towel, the shower for the masters doesn't have hot water yet, so my wife uses the shared one in the same area. She would usually walk out of the bathroom with just a towel on and go change in our walk-in closet. This shouldn't have been a problem, cause the guest bedroom was in a different part of the house, far from the main bedrooms, and it had its own bathroom, so my brother had no reason for being there. Needless to say, my wife is still shaken up about the whole thing, which is why I didn't think about writing an update until now. I'm sorry, but my wife's well-being is my priority above anything else. My mom eventually called me asking what happened. She seemed very confused, so I figured my brother didn't tell her anything at all. I told her what happened, and needless to say, it did not end well. She kept asking me to forgive my brother and take him back in. She ranted about how difficult it would be to support him, and how what I'm doing is breaking the family apart. I let her talk till I eventually said my brother would no longer be welcome in my home. I told her that she needed to get him therapy, and that until then, there's no chance we would ever see him. My mom told me she talked to my sister about it, and I said, good luck, she's mad at him too. Not sure what's going to happen to our family now. The reason why we got the big house was cause we wanted everyone to come over during the holidays and stay with us. But I'm not sure if my parents will at this point, and there's no chance my brother is ever coming back anytime soon. Thankfully, my sister is 100% on my side, and we're going to talk about what we're doing for Thanksgiving soon. My wife hasn't really been the same either, but she's getting better now that my brother is gone. We're talking about therapy, which is something she's very willing to try out. We took a drive to the beach earlier, chill guys, we didn't leave the car, and talked about the future. We both agreed that after this whole COVID thing is over, we're going to finally start our family with kids. We want to. Being a mom is something she always wanted, but we both wanted to be financially secure enough to give them a good life, and for us to also be in a position where we didn't have to work so much and just spend time with them. The sparkle in her eyes when we talked about our life together with kids told me that while things aren't good right now, we're going to be ok. I honestly can't wait to be a dad myself. So yeah, long story short, brother is gone, wife is still sad, sister is on my side, but mom isn't, and I'm going to be a dad in a few years. Thanks to everyone who gave me their advice. It honestly helped me clear my head and make the right decision to tell my wife first. Oh, and to answer questions that may come up. No, we did not go to the police. My brother deleted everything voluntarily and left without a trace. I'm sure the pictures are still out there somewhere, but thankfully they aren't too explicit that it would severely damage my wife's reputation. And no, we aren't going to try and get pregnant or anything like that. We plan on adopting, which is something we both talked about early on. Story 2. Am I the asshole for not inviting my siblings to my wedding? My sister, 34 female, and her husband, 36 male, just got married 3 months ago. I-30 female was appointed Mo. I was so excited to help her plan her wedding, and I took on most of the work since I was unemployed at the time, and she's a doctor. I won't get into details, but take note she didn't have a wedding planner. It was all me. The time leading up to the wedding, I was miserable because of how the bride treated me. I felt like her own personal slave that she felt she could kick around because she's the bride. Just because you're a bride doesn't mean you get a free pass to be a bee. Many times, I wanted to just step out of the wedding party, but I kept telling myself to just bite my tongue and keep the peace because she's probably just stressed. After doing so much for her, she refused to invite my fiancé, even if we'd been together for 12 years, but invited my siblings' partners who have been around for only 2-3 years. My sister and her guy dated for a year before they got engaged, so we don't really know him too well. She said she didn't want my fiancé around because people would be asking about my own wedding since they've all been wanting us to get married for a while. I refused to do any more work for her wedding until she apologized to me and invited my fiancé, which she did. Not exactly sincerely, but whatever. I was hurt she wasn't even grateful for anything that I had done for her in her dream wedding because it was expected of me to help. Cut to the day of the wedding and everything was fine. The ceremony was beautiful and the couple was happy. I was happy for my sister. By the time we got to the reception venue, I noticed that my fiancé and I were on a separate table from my family. They were at the VIP table, and I was cast aside to sit at the furthest table right beside the kitchen. I figured there was a mistake, and I calmly asked the bride about it since she handled the seating plan. She looked me dead in the eye and said there's no mistake. That's where we belong. At the kids' table and far away. We were seated with 7 14-year-olds. The groom overheard us and agreed with me, but kept quiet when my sister gave him this "don't you dare disagree with me" look. At the end of the night, the groom apologized to my parents for what happened to me and said he had no clue his bride did that. But he didn't say a word to me as his bride told him not to. Because of this, I decided to not make an issue and just try to enjoy the remainder of the night with my partner, but I wouldn't make a Mo speech. My parents noticed where I was and got upset at the situation as well. My siblings knew very well I wasn't at their table, but didn't bother looking for me or wondering why I wasn't seated there. When they heard I wasn't making a speech, my 2 brothers walked to my table to tell me off, saying I had to understand my sister and the stress of being a bride. Be nice to her, because it's her special day and you're only a bride once. Yeah, right, I bet they'll divorce. That I'm a disgrace and a disgusting disappointment for not doing a speech for my sister. That I would make my sister sad and I was being selfish making the night about me, when I was literally quiet in our corner. Needless to say, I wasn't having the best time. So we got up and left. We ended up in McDonald's for dinner, and I posted a story of us getting burgers saying post-wedding meal. I made sure I posted it after the reception, ended to not make it look like I ditched, but my siblings saw this as an attack to my sister somehow. Up to this day, the bride says she did nothing wrong, and her reasoning for putting me there was, 1. I didn't plan her wedding exactly like she envisioned during the process, so I deserved to sit there, when I was doing everything she told me she wanted. 2. She didn't like that I looked pretty in my gown. And 3. I needed to be punished for insisting on bringing my fiancé. I didn't plan for my own wedding, yet, as I wanted to be 100% focused on hers. Plus, she banned me from getting married before her since she's older. Again, because I didn't want the drama, I agreed. But now I just don't want anyone there except my parents and a few close friends. My parents agree with me, but my siblings are upset calling me childish. But to be completely honest, I just don't feel like paying for shit people. Mine is a destination wedding, and my fiancé and I are paying for everything. These are our savings, and I don't feel like splurging on these people. They, along with my grandparents and cousins, are all saying I'm wrong. But hey, if I was excluded from being a sibling at my sister's wedding, and no one cared, then why would you be upset if I excluded you in return? Update. Just us 2 and a handful of close friends that were there for us since the beginning of our relationship. We'll have a small church wedding and a little celebration on the beach with the people we love, our chosen family, followed by island hopping with our entire party around the Philippines. All paid by us, because I will spend on memories and experiences for people that love and appreciate us. The budget we set aside for a wedding in Italy will be put to an intimate 5-day wedding celebration on an island in the Philippines. 2. We will have our reception with the family when we get back home. The plan is to invite both our big families to a luncheon the weekend after. Collectively, this would mean about 80 guests max. Both our parents wanted to help pay for the engagement party and rehearsal dinner. They agreed to pay for this luncheon/reception instead, meaning they could invite whomever they please. They handle the guest list, so if my siblings are invited, I couldn't care less because I'll be too busy with my husband of 1 to 2 weeks by then. Here we can still have the father-daughter dance and a few other things like cake slicing, etc. We'll have piñatas, a brick oven pizza cart, coffee and pretzels, and an amazing Italian buffet with a pasta bar. Lots of fresh fruit and cheese, because who doesn't like cheese? As for seating plan, ever watched Mamma Mia 1? Yeah, think that. A long winding table where my siblings can be as far away from me as possible, and as close to the service area as possible without it being obvious, because they'll all be together at their own siblings' table. We'll be in the center with my fiancé. His 2 brothers and our parents will be next to us, while my wonderful sibs are by the end of the table, by the restrooms, where they belong. I don't care at all if they're invited to this lunch because I really have nothing left for them. Not even anger. I'm just so done with them that I'd feel more for a stranger on the street than I would for these people. It's indifference. They've hurt me so many times that I'm numb to their existence. 3. No bridezilla allowed. My sister expects to be my Mo in return. Definitely not going to happen since my siblings won't be present in the ceremony. I do not need her around. I do not want her around. Yes, she will be invited out of courtesy to the reception, most likely, but I will make sure she's set aside like I was. How so? We recently found out she's pregnant, so I'm planning my wedding around her due date. Oh well. Luckily, she's due around June, which really was the month we wanted. So if she does decide to attend with a newborn and her hus, well then, she's going to be at the kiddie table and told to step out when baby starts to cry. In the end, our wedding day is for us, and eloping is the only way I feel like we could just sit and enjoy our special day together away from all my siblings and family issues. Then we get back, have a get-together lunch with some good food and good fun, which is really all it is to me, a lunch. Luckily, Fiance's fam isn't as insane as mine is. So there you have it. Thank you all for your messages and comments and insights. I really was going a bit loco back then thinking I was overreacting, but thank you so much for the clarity. Cheers to the end of this emotionally draining year.